Also, it's that time again, everybody. Everyone's favorite segment. It's time for Prospecting with the Welsh. That's right. It's when the Welsh talks about some of the guys playing in AAA, maybe even AA, some names that you need to know for your fantasy baseball rosters. And Welsh, one guy that we've been talking about a lot, finally got the call. It's Jordan Lawlar of your Arizona Diamondbacks. So I want to talk about him because they finally called him up. He's been undeniable so far in the minor leagues, hitting the snot out of the ball everywhere, hitting for power, playing different positions. And it seems like playing the different positions is what's going to get him in this D-backs lineup at some point, because there really isn't a whole lot of room in the infield for him the way that group has performed. So, Welsh, I've heard about, they're going to try to get him in the lineup a couple times a week, give some guys some days off, move him around. That flexibility is great for fantasy in theory, but is it great in practice if he's not playing every single day up here at the big league level?
I still think it can. It's not a couple times a week. They're talking at like at least 4 times. So if there's 6 games in a week, they're talking about 4. This is kind of what I broke down, like whatever it was a couple of weeks ago we talked about. The only thing that's missing is that he's not playing any outfield, which is super annoying. But in the minors, he's played third, short, and second. Torey Lovullo said that when he comes up, he will play third, short, and second, and he'll give spells. They don't want to go like 3, I think it's like if you have 3 back-to-backs, or if you have back-to-back-to-back, they want Cattell to start sitting. So you've got a second base spot. He could DH as well. You're going to give a day off to Perdomo, a day or 2 off for Eugenio. They'll use that DH spot. So to your point, if he only plays 4 of 7, maybe it's like not as super great, but they feel that they're going to play him enough to not stunt his development, because I know people are kind of hung up on that. And I think that is important. Ironically, I saw someone go out about this, that it's like he was crazy. And then in May, he's only hit like 200. Then the Diamondbacks are like, bring him on up. He's only hitting 200 now when he starts to struggle, but he's still coming off of a 336 minor league campaign, 6 homers, 13 stolen bases. Underlying profile is pretty good in AAA. Average EV 110, which is better than he's had at any AAA or major league start. Hitting the ball a little bit harder, getting the ball in the air more than ever, and he's going to get some time. I think it's worth speculation, but I'll always reiterate this to you. If you can't stomach what Nick Kurtz is doing, like, just be careful. Lawlar at least has some major league experience, and he knows this team, and he has changed his profile already to kind of mirror more what he needs to do in the major league. So I think there's some better upside there, but he's not a big mashing hitter, and he's not going to hit at the top of the lineup. So this probably isn't like a 10 team. People are like, is this a must have? No, probably not, because he doesn't have an everyday job. There might be questions to the playing time, and he's not like some overabundant big power hitter. I think he's going to hit for more contact. He's going to steal some bases aggressively, but it'll be lower in the lineup.
All right, let's get an update on the guys from Boston. Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer. We have the Romy Gonzalez injury after the Tristan Casas injury. Still debate on when or if Rafael Devers will switch over to first base. But if he does, that certainly opens up some DH role. Maybe move some guys around, maybe call somebody up. So what have you heard the latest on these 2 prospects here for Boston, which we're still waiting for some sort of impact on the major league level for them?
Well, one of the things that might have, it's funny because it's like Devers won't go play first, but there have been rumors that Trevor Story could go over to first, which I think would be really interesting for, his injury history. So you can keep him in the lineup, or Christian Campbell could go over to first. Either one of those moves, though, speak to Marcelo Mayer. And Marcelo Mayer's bat's been fine. He's had some nice power. He's not hitting for average like Roman Anthony is. Roman Anthony is still the guy. He's still hitting over 300 in AAA, 5 homers, 3 stolen bases. It's a 423 OBP. And that's where the frustration comes, I think, for most people, because you're like, listen, if Devers can go to first and you can get Anthony in as an outfielder DH, it seems like it might be the best thing for the team. But there still is no path for that, because Craig Breslow and them do not seem at all interested in moving him to first base. They want to keep him in the outfield. So I'm starting to think maybe Mayer is going to be the one that's going to get, and not our Mike Mayer, but Marcelo would be the guy that might be in the lineup soon at the expense of a Story or a Campbell moving to first. But we still got to see. It should be Anthony. Looks like he's ready. Shouldn't be down for much longer, but Marcelo might be the guy up sooner.
Yeah, lots of things to sort out there in Boston still, obviously. Let's talk about another guy we keep waiting on, Bubba Chandler. We thought was imminent, and then he wasn't, and then he didn't have the greatest start last time we saw him. So what's the latest on Bubba Chandler, the starting pitching prospect for the Pittsburgh Pirates?
Yeah, start date 1/17259. It is day 75 of.
I don't know. I don't know when Bubba Chandler is going to come up. The last start wasn't great. but it also wasn't like the worst thing in the world. Strikeouts were there, walks. I think his start would line up to today, and the Pirates have made no indications. So I think clearly it would have to be the next one. I think if he has a really nice one, then the timeline is this next start. But like, we're just kicking the can down the road. So the only thing to talk about here is we continuously talk about when will he come up. It's all just best guesses at this point. We don't know what they're doing developmentally. That last start probably did maybe halt things a tiny bit because he couldn't go deep in the game and he was walking again. But I think if he has a really good one here, it should open up because now you're into that mid-May, which the Pirates really, really like. And he has had way more good starts than bad ones.
All right, let's go a little further down the farm for a second for a Mets farmhand who struck out 13 guys, a career high at Double-A. Jonah Tong kind of turned some eyes and some heads over in spring training this year, too. 6 2/3 innings in his last start. He's got a 44.7% strikeout rate. That's very high. I know the Mets don't need any immediate starting pitching help, but I think it's also one of those scenarios where if you're in dynasty leagues and you're looking at your team and you're trying to acquire more assets, Tong and a couple of these other guys, Sparrott, seems like the Mets have a pretty good prospect grouping here of pitchers that are going to come to Citi Field sooner than later. So what's your take on Tong? I know you're a big prospect guy. This is why we come to you, Welsh. What's his development possibly look like over the next year or so?
Shocker, we're talking about Mets prospects from Joey, right?
Well, we're talking about a Mets prospect who had 13 strikeout performance. I think that's
Tong is interesting.
44% K rate.
Yeah, I mean, and he is interesting. They've got Tidwell, they've got Sprott, they got Tong. Tong is not an option for this year. I would, I mean, never say never because he could get to AAA and move up, but they've got to work through Sprott and Tidwell, and maybe Tidwell is going to go in a trade or something. The thing that is really going for Tong is massive strikeouts, 51 strikeouts in 28 innings pitched so far. Pretty absurd numbers. Walks are looking, a little bit high, 14 walks in 28 innings. He's held batters to like an under 170 batting average so far this year. He seems to be on his stuff. I don't know if there's like injury or relief risk, maybe 6'1", 180, a little bit skinnier of a guy. But I think there's a handful of really, really interesting like Double-A-ish pitchers that are out there in Dynasty. And I think Tong is one of those that you want to speculate on because that strikeout stuff with the fastball is huge with him. But there's a little relief
speculate risk on Justin Crawford of the Phillies. Just we were getting closer and closer to thinking maybe Otto Kemp would get an opportunity. Unfortunately, Alec Boehm started hitting again. So could Justin Crawford actually be the guy that gets there first?
Yeah, this is one I really wanted to hit here on my list is Crawford, son of Carl Crawford in AAA, has just been an absolute monster. He's near the top of hit leaders in all of AAA. He's only 21 years old, but the 6'2" outfielder, his offensive game is stepping up. 20% K percentage, but he's upped his walk percentage to 10%. 319 batting average at his last 4 stops. High, or I guess it was 3. High A, Double-A, and Triple-A. He's all hit over 300. Power projections are really, really low on him. He doesn't have a homer this year, but he's got 12 stolen bases in 34 games. He's hitting like crazy, which is really, really important. And looking at that offense, Brandon Marsh is hitting under 200. Kepler is okay, I guess. He's hitting around 240. Lefties in the lineup. That's Crawford. I think you could see Crawford in the very, very near future because game-changing speed you could have at the bottom of a lineup. Maybe one of Marsh or Kepler goes by the wayside. I just think there's room there. Crawford to be a huge, huge stolen base option, kind of in the likes of like a Chandler Simpson type of a player that I would look at because he's hitting for massive average. And I think the clock is ticking really, really quick here. So stolen base chasing, look at Justin Crawford.
Speaking of huge, how about 6'7", Jacob Misiorowski, the last guy we're going to talk about. The Brewers rotation might need a little bit of a shakeup at some point. Brandon Woodruff is coming back, but Myers got sent down. Misiorowski at AAA this year, 42 innings, got a 1.49 ERA. That's as good as it gets. The ERA is so low, we can't even see it. Plus the whip is 0.92 right now. He's got 11.5 K per 9. The walk rate's still a little high, 3.8, but better than it was to open the season. So could we be seeing this guy who is basically unhittable? I mean, giving up just 21 hits in 42 innings. Misiorowski, what do you think this timetable might be this year for him?
Yeah, and Callie, I would say get off of projections and go to stats so people can see the massive, massive numbers for Jacob Misiorowski because that's the craziness of him this year. He's got a sub 1.5 ERA, 1.49, an 11.5 K per 9. But here's the most important: walks last year across all levels. 5.5 walks per 9 this year, 3.8. We're getting close to cutting 2 walks off per 9. And when you go and look at his stuff, he's lowered because that's always been his problem. Jacob Misiorowski has got big, powerful, exciting stuff. But guess what? He's a walk machine. And that spells and smells of relief risk that he would be a big time closer. Well, this year in AAA, what we're seeing is the fastball has ticked down a tiny bit. 98 average last year, 97.2. So he's ticked it down a little bit for a little bit more command. Scrapped the sinker. He's going heavy slider. He threw it 3% of the time last year, 16% of the time this year, 90.9 last year, averages 92.7. So he's throwing a almost 93 mile an hour slider, the fastball at 97. And then he's got this curve that he's throwing at 86, and he's lowered that percentages. So it's heavy fastball slider having huge results. He's not walking guys as much. It's a beautiful thing. Misiorowski has gone from looks like he's a closing option to, you know what? He actually might be a starting pitcher. They're going to give him that shot, and that shot might come soon because, as we talked about, there's not they got a weird hole at the bottom of their rotation with 2 open spots. There's only so long you're going to keep Misiorowski in AAA with those type of results. He should get a shot pretty soon. And I will tell you, it is like a fantasy haven of skills that he has and strikeout potential that you got to speculate on him if he comes up. You just got to watch the walk issues.
Yeah, Logan Henderson also came up earlier this year, so you got to leapfrog him too, and he looked really good at the major league level. So those are the prospects to watch. Prospecting with the Welsh is always here every single Monday on Leading Off. Join us on our Twitch, twitch.tv/FantasyPros Live. And of course, you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, Fantasy Pros MLB. Let's get to